Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, hero to the Ukrainians and hero to the world and to me. I'm certain every last one of the viewers watching this video knows this man, but most of us know Zelensky after the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine started. He had been a president of Ukraine already 2 years before that. But even before that, what was he? What is his story? In this video we will look at Zelensky's story, a little bit about his childhood, where did he come from? And let me warn you, there is a fair share of scandal in his presidency. Before we start, I want to let you know that I admire him and his actions, his resilience and his devotion to the Ukrainian people. Whatever I'm talking about in this video does not take anything away from him in my eyes. My name is Artur Rehi and I will bring you videos about people all over the world, about news stories all over the world. If you like this detailed view about a certain topic, then subscribe to the channel and become a patron of the channel. It's the best way to support it. Link is in the description below. Thank you, my friends. As I said, we all know Zelensky as the Ukrainian wartime president, but he was already president before the war started. Let's go back to the very beginning. Let's go back to his childhood. Zelensky, now 44 years old, grew up in a Jewish family. He is the only son of a college professor. During World War II, several members of his family died in the Holocaust, and one of his grandfathers served in the Soviet army. Hey, my grandfather served in the Soviet army. If you live in Russia or Ukraine or Belarus or any of the post-Soviet countries now, probably your grandfather served in the Soviet army. Zelensky was born and raised in the industrial city of Kryvyi Rih in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, where he received a law degree from the Kryvyi Rih location of the Kiev Economic University. I don't know how is it about you, but anytime you read something up about a famous person, what education do they have? I couldn't for the life of me picture right now this wartime president icon of Ukraine studying law as a 20-year-old man, just like any other 20-year-old man. This shows very well that legends about people are all making people bigger than they actually are. I cannot imagine Zelensky studying law as a youngster. Sorry. During his student years, Zelensky took up comedy, creating in 1997 the Kvartal 95 sketch comedy group. Around the same time, he met his now a wife, Olena Zelenska, who joined the comedy team as a writer. So Zelensky married his co-worker. Nice. After his comedy team gained prominence in the post-Soviet media space, Zelensky went to start his own entertainment business, also called Kvartal 95. Before becoming president, Zelensky focused on building his media business. He did that by creating a TV show, Вечерний Kvartal, in one of the biggest Ukrainian TV channels. This all happened in 2005 and the channel was called Inter, and Zelensky actually served as the director of the channel for 2 terms. Zelensky's media company produced original content for the channel and for the big screen, and they produced most of their content in Russian, targeting a greater Russian-speaking audience in the region. Zelensky himself only started seriously learning Ukrainian in 2017 with a tutor. Russian and Ukrainian are 2 different languages, and in Ukraine before the war it was very normal to think yourself as a Ukrainian patriot, but speak Russian. There was no conflict with that. After the war, this has changed. Now, Ukrainians who think themselves as Ukrainian patriots want to speak Ukrainian. This wasn't the case before. The popularity of Zelensky's show, The Servant of the People, extended beyond his local regions. It landed in Netflix in 2017. The series is about a high school teacher, played by Zelensky, who becomes the president of Ukraine. How ironic is that? He played the president of Ukraine as a comedian before actually becoming the president of Ukraine. What world do we live in? In this show, Zelensky as the president pledges to fight the corruption in the country. The show ran from 2015 to 2019, and after that show, Zelensky started his run for the presidency. Many believe that this show was a starting platform, a stepping stone for Zelensky to start his presidential run. And there is eerily a lot of similarities between the character Zelensky plays and his real presidential run. It is weird. How did he become president? Zelensky announced his presidential run in the beginning of 2019. The announcement already began with a little bit of controversy because it was scheduled to announce exactly at the time when then the president Petro Poroshenko was making his New Year's speech to the Ukrainian people. Zelensky is obviously a troublemaker from the start, and I mean that in a good way. 30 days later, the Central Election Commission approved Zelensky's candidacy from the servant of the people political party. Yes, the party is called like the show he played the president. It's all weird. I'm as confused as you are. Zelensky's main promise during his presidential run and his main platform was to fight against corruption, to reform the system and to bring change. He immediately advanced to the runoff with 30% of the votes, with the previous president Petro Poroshenko gaining about 15% of the votes. This is how the run started. There were televised debates between the candidates, as is the custom with any presidential elections. People liked Zelensky, people liked his promises, and the gap increased in the percentages. At the end of his run, Zelensky secured a whopping 73% of the votes, the biggest percentage of votes of any Ukrainian president in history. What is Zelensky credited for as a president? I want to do this before we go to his scandals. This I will leave to the very end. Zelensky assembled a team in his cabinet of ministers, with the average age of the team member being 39. His party, Servant of the People, occupied 254 seats out of 450 in the parliament. According to Vasyl Filipchuk, senior advisor at the International Center of Political Studies, Zelensky had fulfilled 27% of his pre-election promises by November of 2021. As part of his campaign promise to lead Ukraine into a digital age, his administration created a digital transformation ministry, an entire new ministry devoted to digital transformation. The newly created ministry launched DIA, the e-governance app, which offers over 72 governmental services digitally, including paying taxes, COVID vaccinations, certificates. During his administration, the parliament also passed a law opening Ukraine's farmland market for the very first time. It is considered one of the most significant landmarks in the Ukrainian legislation since 1991. One of the most important laws in my eyes is the anti-oligarch law, which Zelensky approved in 2021. This law defines an oligarch and places strict restrictions on them. These restrictions are, for example, oligarchs cannot donate a large sum of money anymore, because through these donations oligarchs would expand their power. It is essentially corruption. They donate money for services. Basically, they buy people with that. Another very popular step he took was the ban of pro-Russian media outlets owned by the oligarch Viktor Medvedchuk. The name we heard a few months ago when Ukrainian security forces arrested that oligarch, and now he is already in Russia. He was exchanged for other prisoners. Now we get to the juicy part, your favorite part. What are the scandals around Zelensky during his presidency? In the first years of his presidency, Zelensky faced a huge amount of criticism. He lost most of his popularity and support in 2019, 20 and 21. His popularity dropped more than 50 percentage points to 21%. One of the things why this happened was delays in appointing ministers, which showed the lack of organization, while the ousting of the parliament speaker Dmytro Razumkov signaled the increasing demand for internal control. There were protests against Zelensky's appointed internal minister Arsen Avakov. Police brutality and the failure to uphold the rule of law brought these protests together. There was also corruption. The internal minister Avakov only chose to resign after Zelensky intended to dismiss him over the lack of loyalty. Zelensky's supporters felt that Zelensky wasn't that committed to the anti-corruption fight as he promised that he would be. There was a huge delay in the selection process and the appointment of the head of the Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office. The position stood vacant since 2020 August. The delayed appointment of the permanent head of the State Bureau of Investigation highlighted the same issue. Delays in appointing people to leading positions. The police and security services reform stalled. The National Security and Defense Council, led by the president, took on more power and decisions, playing an outsized role in applying sanctions and restrictions. Prioritization of loyalty within the party ranks, as well as an outsized exercise of control, caused doubts among civil society, which reflected in low popularity rating for Zelensky. Immediately before the war started, Zelensky's approval ratings were in the mid or low 20s percentage points. But how has Zelensky been as a wartime president? Once the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine started, Zelensky became the very face of the Ukrainian resolve to fight back. He became an idol, he became a legend, he became bigger than a man. By refusing to evacuate when Russian forces entered the outskirts of Kiev, he said his famous sentence, "The fight is here, I need ammunition, not a ride." After that, his place in the hearts of the Ukrainian people was cemented. He capitalized on the momentum of the successful Ukrainian resistance and asked Western powers for weapons and aid. In doing so, he strengthened the Ukrainian connections with the UK, inviting Boris Johnson to visit Bucha. He also found a friend in the president of Poland, Andrzej Duda, Poland now being one of the most strongest supporters of Ukraine in this conflict, accepting more refugees than any other nation, in addition to skillfully navigating the international relations. Despite the lack of experience in the beginning of his term, he has regained the trust of his people. In early March, Zelensky's approval ratings were 93%, higher than ever before. Through his daily evening video updates, the president has guided the nation through its most challenging periods. There are quite a few similarities between Zelensky and Churchill, both being excellent wartime leaders. Zelensky is a hero of this war for the Ukrainian people and also for me. He is putting his life in danger. He's leading by an example, not only with words. When this war ends, when Russia is defeated in Ukraine, time will tell how Zelensky will continue, but for now he is loved, he is admired, he's an idol. My friends, if you enjoyed this video, if you like the style of it, please subscribe to the channel and become a patron. That is the best and fastest way to support the channel. Link is in the description below. If you have any ideas which topic I should cover in the future, put it in the comments. I'll be sure to read your comment. And as always, until my next video, Slava Ukraini.